Pissed off Trump just stood up and shocked everyone at G7 summit with what he did. While the United States has traditionally prided itself on being nonconformist and not worrying about being a lone wolf, there are still times when we have the need to play nice with other countries. Over the past few years, however, the United States has started to feel the pull of more and more paranational organizations, that is the UN. That means that the president has to go and speak for the nation at these events and summits where the decisions are made. The United States got a pretty bad reputation for being a doormat with our last commander-in-chief at the helm, giving in to anybody with a head wrap and compromising what's best for Americans at every turn. The rate at which we descended into the laughingstock was disturbing, and no doubt filtered down into the opinions of the citizens of the countries represented. There's no laughing now though, since President Trump has come and loaded for bear, ready to take back what America lost. He's made, what the world is considering a bold move, and what we consider just part of his job description at the G7 summit. The president put his foot down and decided that he would not be pushed into doing anything that he didn't believe to be 100% in the best interest of America. Via Daily Mail. Trump puts America first at the G7, the president refuses to bow to pressure from world leaders on climate change, trade and refugees and insists he'll do what's best for the United States. Donald Trump says he will announce his final decision on whether or not the U.S. will stay in the Paris Climate Agreement next week. The president's surprise announcement came in the form of a tweet, which he sent on Saturday morning, the final day of his first international. "I will make my final decision on the Paris Accord next week," Trump wrote. The president earlier declined to comment about the accord, as he refused to give in to intense international pressure. Earlier Saturday, the other 6 members of the G7 voted to abide by the Paris Climate Agreement, according to a person familiar with the talks. The person spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the matter before the formal announcement. The leaders attempted to convince Trump for 3 days, first in Brussels at meetings of NATO and the European Union, then in Sicily for G7, but the former reality television host will leave Italy without making clear where he stands. Under the G7 agreement, the Trump administration will be given more time to consider whether it will remain committed to the 2015 Paris deal to rein in greenhouse gas emissions. Backing out of the climate accord had been a central plank of Trump's campaign, and aides have been exploring whether they can adjust the framework of the deal even if they do not opt out entirely. Other G7 nations leaned heavily on Trump to stay in the climate deal, with German Chancellor Angela Merkel saying we put forward very many arguments. However, Trump was said to be reluctant to compromise with European leaders over several key issues that prompted European Council President Donald Tusk to admit that the meeting would be the most challenging in years on Friday. A drought statement from the summit, seen by The Guardian, showed Trump wanted world leaders to make little mention of migration and that he wanted a plan by the Italian hosts for a comprehensive 5-page statement that acknowledges migrants' rights to be thrown out. The Italian plans, one on human movement and another on food security, were set to be the centerpiece of its summit diplomacy. Italy had chosen Taormina in Sicily as the venue of the meeting to symbolize the world's concern over the plight of refugees coming from the Middle East and Africa. "I'm glad to hear about it, but I don't know why it's a news story. What else did he go for other than to do what is best for his country? Our president is refusing to be bullied by other countries that want him to do in their best interest. Given, the Paris Agreement, as best I can tell, is about trying to slow the rate of global warming, well, globally. However, even if you're completely and totally sure that these guys have their science straight about the whole global warming fiasco, there's still a really good chance that politicians from other countries would try to use this as an excuse to manipulate countries around the world into doing what they want. This isn't a blanket denial of what's being asked of America. We're not saying that we're going to take our toys and go home. We're just saying that for once, we're going to make sure that our citizens are given preferential treatment over the citizens of the world, like what many have expected of us for years. And for us, that's a really good thing.